Okay, so me and Trailblazer Tim had our hammock camping adventure last weekend, and we had a lot of fun until it came time to get in the hammock. And y'all know from my last video on what kind of mistakes that I made in my hammock. But I really learned a lot from that hammock camping trip, and I really want to go again. And I've been doing some research on underquilts because I think I'm going to need underquilts. I've already solved my suspension problem and my ridgeline problem and my having to wake up in the middle of the night to go take a piss problem. But I noticed that, you know, I was having a hard time in the sleeping bag, and because it was sliding around a lot, I think it could be better served by having an underquilt. And we don't really need thick underquilts here in Florida. It doesn't really get that cold, but you know, under 70 degrees, your backside and your back is going to get a little bit cold without an underquilt. So I started looking around and to seeing what kind of options I have. And I have a Harbor Freight wool blanket that I've had laying around for a long time. That's literally the $11 wool blanket. And it's right here. This is a good blanket. It's still kind of scratchy, so it's not too much good for, you know, being a blanket, but I started thinking I could make an underquilt out of that. And I looked around, and there's some other guys with videos that use it from underquilts, but they take one diagonal corner and they stretch the other diagonal corner and they flop it over themselves. Okay, well, I could do that, but that sounds like kind of a pain. I would like to invent something where I could hang this like an underquilt, but I don't want to have to sew any channels in it. There's, you know, some other guys that are sewing the ends of it together. I don't sew, and my wife don't sew, so I'm kind of sewing challenged. So I wanted to invent a way that I could do it without sewing or without modifying the blanket, because I can take this system apart that I'm going to show you in a minute. I can take it apart and I can still use my blanket as a blanket if I have to. So here we go. Here is my easy breezy, down and dirty method for turning a Harbor Freight wool blanket, or any wool blanket for that matter, into a hammock underquilt. And this works really, really good. This is not the first time you're going to see this. I'm taking this rig out to the woods. So here we go. Okay, we've got our supplies out here. We need 3 or 4 bungee cords, or you can use shot cord, or you can use something that's, you know, it's got a little bit of give to it. You know, it needs to be a little bit of elastic. You know, shot cord or bungee cords, whatever. I got a bunch of bungee cords laying around. I got 4 of these little glass marbles, you know, these little decorative glass marbles that my wife had. And we got 2 lengths of paracord. I got some camo paracord here, and I got some black paracord here. These are about 6-foot lengths of paracord. Now, what are we going to do with all this? I'm going to show you right now. Okay, here we go. We got our hunk of paracord. This is about 6 feet of paracord. I already got this side tied, but we're going to go down to one end, and you're going to do this process on both ends. Okay. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to tie a bowline. Tying a bowline is really, really easy. I have a video of it. If you really want to see how to tie a quick and easy bowline, all we do is we take this line, we turn it around, we make a marlin spike out of it. Okay, we put the line through the marlin spike and we pull, and you make a bowline. And all it's got to do is be big enough for the bungee cord to go through. And this is just all we're going to do later, you'll see, is we're just going to hook the bungee cord into this bowline. Okay, so now we come down from the bowline, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches or so. Okay, we're going to come down. We're going to give this about 4 or 5 inches, right about there. Now we're going to use this tag end of the line with the bowline in it. And all we're going to do is tie a slip knot in the line right there. Okay, so we have a bowline here, and now we have a slip knot. It's not going to come out because you're going to be pulling. You're going to be pulling when we hook it to the bungee and the hammock. You're going to be pulling against the bowline side, so it's going to be tightening the knot, and it's going to be tightening and tightening. Okay, so we got about 4 or 5 inches. We got a bowline. We got a slip knot. Now we're ready for the hard part. Okay, so here we go. We've got our line. We got a bowline at the very end of it, and we just came over and tied a slip knot in it. Okay, and this end of the line goes all the way out to the other end, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other end. And this is probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches from the slip knot down to the bowline. You want to try to make it even on both sides. Give yourself a little bit of opening. Now this is the hardest part of the whole operation. Got to get a little marble, and these are just little decorative marbles that my wife had from like Dollar Tree or something like that. So we're going to come in a couple inches away, and we're going to put this marble in the fabric, and we're going to make a tie out point. And you've seen a lot of people do this. This is kind of the hardest part. You've seen a lot of people do this on like canvas tarps or something. You can use a rock for this. This is hard using marbles because the marble's slippery and it's hard to hold it against the wool blanket. But you could use a rock, you know, something with edges, or even a stick, you know, a little bit of a small twig, just something to go in here that you can tie against. All right, I think I got it now. I'm going to put this around our thing. Now we're going to tighten this up. And this is really the hardest part. So, okay, I think I got it now. Okay, yep. All right, look at this. All right. Okay, tighten her up. Okay, now we are tightened up. We're tightened up against that marble. So you got something that looks like this. Now remember, this part is what we're going to put the bungee cord in. We're going to hang this from the other side of, we're going to hang it from the carabiner on the hammock with a bungee cord. And this goes all the way around to the other side. And I've already tied this side, okay, with our bowline on this side. Now, we've got a big loop of line left in here. I'm going to show you right now what we're going to do with that big loop of line. You don't really need that. You could just tie some little knots like this with a slip knot on one end and a bowline on the other end, and just use another piece of line. But this is how you can do it using one piece of line. This is about, I don't know, 3 or 4 feet of line. So now I'm going to show you what we're going to use this loop for. Okay, so now we've got this tied on. Here's a bowline right up here, and I just used the paracord to tie this other end into a slip knot, and you saw me tie in the little marble, and that baby is tight. It's not going anywhere. And I did the same thing to the other corner. Now we just take the excess blanket, and we're going to gather it up to about, I don't know, right about there or so. Okay, all we're going to do is gather this up. And now we're just going to use this end, because this is one continuous piece paracord. We're just going to loop it. Okay, just going to loop it, and we're just going to tie it with the loop. Get out of there. We'll tie it with the loop. Okay, we're just going to tie it around this gathered end. Okay, got to get our bowlines out of there. Okay, those are good. Now we're just going to take this, gather it up into about a fist. All right, tighten this baby up, and we're just going to tie it into a knot. Okay, and it doesn't have to be anything special, just to keep it gathered. Okay, now I gather this in. I'm just going to tie it into a knot. That's going to stay, and it's going to keep this end gathered so that we can take these 2 bowlines and we can hang them up on the end of the hammock. Okay, let's do that now. Okay, so here at the head end, we got our marble and we have our slip knot tied around the marble. That's going to stay. And we've got our bowline right here. And this is going to be a little bit different than the foot end. I'll show you the foot end in a minute, but I didn't have the right length bungee cord. So what I did is I took the longest one I had and I just doubled it through the carabiner. And I came down and hooked one end on both ends of the bungee to that bowline and one end to that bowline and run it through the carabiner, and it works perfectly. It works perfectly, and it's got enough give. It stretches just like shot cord would stretch, and it doesn't change the hang angle or the sag of your hammock because it's attached to the carabiner. Now let's go down to the foot end and see what we're working with down there. Okay, so here we are at the foot end. We've got our little marble, or our slip knot around the marble. We got our gathered end right here, slip knot around the marble, and we've got our bowline. So we come up and hook a bungee cord through the bowline, and we run the bungee cord up, and we just hook it around the carabiner. Easy breezy, snap, and we're in. And we hook another same size bungee cord on the other side, because it comes from this marble, comes up to this bowline, and we just put the bungee cord through the bowline, and we run it up, and we hook it through the carabiner. Okay, so now I got the ridgeline pulled up, or the hammock pulled up over the ridgeline. I'm going to show you what we have. When we get it attached at the foot end and up here at the head end, now what we have is something like this. We've almost got another hammock made out of the wool blanket. Look how big that is. Okay, and it's gathered on this end, and it's gathered on that end. So we got a nice big cocoon for the hammock. Now, when you get this hammock back down, okay, it goes this way. Now we just put the hammock inside the wool blanket, and you have something like this. Look at that, and it conforms. You have a little bit of airspace, but it conforms right around the sides of the hammock. Let's pull it all out. Right around the sides of the hammock, like that. That's pretty nifty, isn't it? And this is going to go all the way around the hammock, and it's going to pull on the bungee cords on the foot end. It's going to pull on the bungee cords on the head end, just like having shot cord. So let's get in it and see how it works. Okay, so here we are at the head end of the hammock. You can see that this blanket goes all the way around me on both sides. You can pull it and you can adjust it a little bit. You can get it up over you on both sides. Now this is going all the way around my upper body. And on the sides, the wool blanket is just about up to my shoulders, and it's all the way around me. It's coming all the way up to about right there. I can feel it right about there. So my head is totally protected. My shoulders are totally protected. My upper body's totally protected. And you can grab it and pull it in a little bit if you need to. And you are right in a nice wool blanket cocoon. Now this is not an expensive wool blanket by any means. This is the $11 Harbor Freight blanket. But I didn't rip any seams. I didn't sew anything. I didn't do anything to it. I didn't modify the blanket in any way. I can take the little marbles out and the bungee cords off and the paracord off, and I got my wool blanket back. So here's how it looks. Here's how it looks on the head end. I'm going to show you another angle in a minute of how we get in it. And I think this is going to work out great. I'm laying nice and diagonal now, and it's still going around me, and it's still protecting both of my shoulders. Oh, this is nice and warm. All right, let's move right along. Oh. Just stop our swing here. Okay. Pull up the head end. Oh yeah. Ooh. Get a nice diagonal going. Okay. Here we go. This isn't bad at all. As you can see, this wool blanket comes all the way around me and is up over my shoulders. The head end is up over my head. In the back, it's right about there. Okay, and it comes all the way around on this side. And it offers you a little bit of adjustability. You know, you can slide it and reposition it however you want to. But my entire upper and lower body is covered on the underside by the wool blanket. It's kind of folded over my feet a little bit down here. I'm laying diagonal. Oh, this is great. So if my wife kicks me out, I got a nice place to sleep in the garage. But as you can see, it makes that wool blanket makes a little cocoon. And I'm not hanging by the wool blanket. I'm hanging by the hammock and the straps. Okay, that's what the bungee cords give you. It lets the wool blanket kind of give like a regular underquilt should. And I am, whew, this is nice. Oh, I'm just gonna take a little nap. Okay, this goes all the way around me and comes all the way up above my head. And you can see that it conforms to the bottom of the hammock really, really nicely. And it goes all the way around both sides. And you can, it'll slide and you can adjust it a little bit too. I can already feel it getting warmer on my underside. Oh man, this is nice. Look at that. And I'm laying totally diagonally, and I'm flat, and I'm comfortable, and I'm warm. Yep, this is going to work great. Okay, so here we are from the foot end of the hammock. As you can see, it just goes up and comes around and goes up the sides of the hammock. And you can really move this and fold in the sides and cover your feet. I'm laying diagonally in the hammock, and I'm nice and flat. The head end is still up around me on both sides. This is gonna be good. Okay, so here we go. I just took an 80 by 60 Harbor Freight wool blanket that cost me $11. I just turned that into an underquilt for a 10-foot hammock, and it worked great. You saw how the whole sides were all the way around my shoulders and above my head, all the way down to where my feet were protected. My whole body was protected by the underquilt, and I think that's going to work really, really good. Also, the best part about this is all I did was I did the old hook and loop method. I just tied a couple of these little marbles on with some paracord and a bowline and a slip knot. That's all I did. So it's 100% removable. I didn't modify the blanket in any way. And you can take this apart in 5 minutes, and now you got your wool blanket back. I'm thinking about maybe putting some grommets, some tarp grommets in the corners of the wool blanket so that I can more easily hook the bungee cords onto it, and maybe going down a few inches and putting another couple of grommets so that I can kind of gather the end. You know, I can put a carabiner on it. That's another modification that I may make. That may be another video. But here we go. That's how to make an underquilt quick and easy from a Harbor Freight wool blanket, and it works just like an underquilt. There's no sewing, there's no seam ripping, you know, there's no modifications to the blanket at all. So I hope you like this video. If you do, like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, this is Matt the Old Floor Boy, and I will see you on the trail.